I'd like to just show you, I'll give you a quick tour of the front-end part of the Open Local Information Directory. This is a part of our response to the SCL tender for digital access to information services and the Geo Locator part. The solution is split into two pieces, a front-end user-facing piece and a back-office piece. I'd just like to show you the front-end piece here. This is the front screen. Now, it's very sparse, so everything, I should start by saying, everything about this solution we can customize. So it's not like we're saying this is how it is. It's an open source piece of software. The idea is that you take this and you add around it. So if you want to put more text on the front page, or if you would like the search form to be a part of something else, that's trivially easy. And indeed, this search form that you see at the top is the primary access point, and this HTML can be lifted and embedded into other sites. So I know that the single point of access, the idea is that perhaps you could embed a form on there. So this form could be put anywhere, basically. It's not important. The form does need to post back to the central service. Don't particularly want to get into too much of the technical detail, but I do want to give you the impression that there's quite a lot of flexibility about how we can structure this. Obviously, searching by postcode is key, so what I'm going to do is, rather than me work to a pretend system, we've imported some data in and around Sheffield, and I'll explain a little bit about how we've done that in the second part of this. But for now, let me just do a quick search based on postcode. So what I've done here is to search based on postcode S38PZ, and you can see that the first hit is Victim Support Sheffield, which I happen to know is exactly in that postcode. We've got two buttons, CList and CMap, because obviously some people prefer the traditional search engine approach, some people prefer the map-based approach. We've got a header which links to a details page, we've got some descriptive text, contact details for the organisation, and then a distance. Obviously the properties that we show on here, again, customizable. If there are properties which aren't already in the database, they're relatively easy to add them, and add them to the administrative interface so that you can track them. I can click on a particular item and I'll get through to the details page. I'll go into more detail in the administrative part, but we have all the sort of high-level details, and then we store something called sessions, which represent time and place availability of a resource. So for something like victim support, which is an organisation open 24/7, 9 till 5 days a week rather, we just have one session which locates them in time, so we don't do a time and place thing, just a place thing. There's quite a lot to be said for locating things in time and place. If you want to compete with Google in terms of the way that its semantic search is going, it's important that you richly tag this information. So it might be valuable to get information about opening times from victim support so that we can do much more granular searching. And indeed, on that search bar, have what you're looking for, where and when, so that you can get that information. We can also store things like indicative cost. Obviously, victim support are a free service. What I'm trying to get across here is that you can put minimum information in here. You can put in a title, a description, and a postcode, and that's enough to drive the system. But the richer you make it, the better experience your users get. One of the things that we're really interested in and pursuing is the idea that a member of staff from victim support could register on this page and actually propose changes. So not that they could make changes directly to the data, but that they could propose changes like changes to opening times and sessions, which library staff can then approve and authorize. So not to give end users direct edit access, unless the library staff choose to allow those updates to come straight through, but to actually try and streamline the approach to maintaining this kind of data. Victim support's obviously not quite in the health arena, and I'll explain where the data came from in the next screencast. If I just go back here, the other thing, we've got a return to search link, just to try and give some contextual navigation, and it's quite nice for people using mobile devices, not to have to rely on the back button. So there's some thoughts have gone into navigation here. I should also do the CMap thing. So here we've got a link through to Google Maps. You can see, I should have said before, we've got faceting on the left-hand side. Again, configurable. I can choose to facet on different things. Currently I'm faceting on subject, categories and collections. Collections, again, I'll explain in the next part. And we've got the map view here with the hits, obviously, because not everything in this database is geocoded. And so sometimes, I think actually it happens that all 10 hits here are geocoded because I've used a postcode. But if I just used a keyword for something quite unique, so a little bit of a diversion there. Where you've got frequently occurring services, postcode searching makes a lot of sense, because obviously they're going to be things near you. But as you get to more specialised services, cancer support for children, those sorts of very special services, it makes more sense to search for them by keyword than it does postcode, because you're willing to travel to those services because of their rarity. So that's particularly true with national services, for example, and one of the things we might like to think about in this interface is whether or not we actually allow national services to appear at the top of the list. So a little bit like the way you get sponsored search links in Google, do we want national services to appear at the top? And that's something that we can relatively easily support. But obviously, if you're doing postcode searching, there is a danger that if there isn't a point of presence for a national service locally, you might miss it when it's easily available through something like a helpline. Anyway, because obviously the map interface, we've got 2,148 hits just searching in S38PZ. When you do a postcode search, the hits are ranked by distance from the postcode centroid, if you like. So actually I happen to know that victim support is here. So we've got A and B, the two pins here, which is why you can only see the B one at the moment. Victim support is sat right on top of there, and it's 0 miles from the point. And then as we spread out, we've got the HIV support unit here, for example. I can page to the next page of results, and the map changes. Obviously, it's a Google map, so I can do all the scaling in, scaling out things. Map's taking a little bit of time this morning to refresh, and I can move around it. Currently, we only show the hits, these 10 hits on the map. We could show all the hits, but this map would become very busy, I think, if we showed all the pins. But again, that's something we can discuss. I wanted to say a little bit about the keyword searching. Obviously, the more records when you've only got 2 or 3 records per city, for example, searching by postcode makes perfect sense. But as you get more data, people do want to be more specific. So, for example, we could just say health. The default search, by the way, is the text one, and we can choose whether it's the text or the map results. Again, we've got faceting. So this is a search for health near S38PZ. And currently, this searches in all the text of the records, but we can restrict it to just title or just description. It's relatively easy to change that. So when I search for health, I get 722 results. Why don't I try HIV, actually? That's not what I've done before. So let's have a look. So we've got distance from S38PZ 0.5 miles. Shall I look at the map view, actually? It's kind of fun, isn't it? So this technology is pretty much the same as the Find a Library technology. It's actually a substantial bit more up to date. Find a Library uses spatial solar. This uses something called Elasticsearch, which is based on the same underlying tool set but is updated. It's a little bit quicker, and it's a little bit more flexible in terms of the kind of information that we're trying to put in there. I think that this is just about it, really. Other things it's worth just pointing to. The search engine's relatively intelligent, so if I search for diabetes, I'm going to find, I think, no hits. That's because I spelled diabetes wrong. If I search for diabetes with this little symbol on the end, this means fuzzy search, and it's actually a lot easier to find hits with fuzzy search. I've not got this turned on by default because it'll find a lot more results, but one of the things that we might like to consider is whether or not, having done a search which doesn't find anything, we try the search again with the fuzzy tag switched on, so you can see that will really take care of the most common misspellings of things, which where you're looking at diabetes and asthma, in terms of engagement, it can be quite useful to support people who might not be able to spell those medical terms correctly. So I think that that's it. We can filter using the facets, but I'm not sure that there's much more to say than that. Hopefully this does the job that you need in terms of the front end. This is done. It's a responsive design, which means it should work okay on mobile devices as a website rather than an application. Although I think we'd probably like to do some more testing on mobile devices. It might be worth dropping the faceting panel on mobile devices. You can see how this layout might not work because it's wide rather than deep, so it might not be an ideal layout for mobile devices, and we're probably going to change this around when we're presenting on a mobile platform. But okay, I'm going to stop there. Hopefully that's given you an idea about the front end.